Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
A hockey fan, you watch Brad Marchand and you're like, I hate that guy, but we'll see how he is now that we get him.
Yeah, I don't think Diggs is going to be licking people.
Hopefully not. Not me, at least.
It's only 11 minutes in. I'm going to be good.
And they got bounced in the divisional round by the Bengals.
Because he dropped a bomb with the game on the line.
Okay, I mean, he made a bad play. Like, are we going to
Well, I'm
discount
just
it
saying,
against
if you're going to
everybody?
bitch about getting the most targets in football, you need to produce when you're targeted.
You just said that that's not what he was bitching about. He was bitching about not getting the ball when they were losing.
He
That's
was,
different.
he was bitching about not getting the ball always.
You sure about that?
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we can all... I didn't make it to 12 minutes. We can all pretend those things didn't happen.
You're saying Jaws isn't a long movie?
Oh.
Just to let everyone know, Evans is about 34 seconds away from a backhand. The length of the arms, I don't know why it matters. I'm not...
We told you why it matters.
I don't pretend.
It does matter.
I don't pretend to know. It's not something
No,
that I care
you're
to
playing
know about.
dumb. You
No,
know.
I'm not
You
playing
know.
dumb.
Yes, you are.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium. We got a big news day. There's a lot to talk about. It's Evan, it's Paul, it's me, Matt in the booth. Deuce is down staring at the sun in Florida.
If he's not staring at my
Have we
Vrabel.
checked his retina after that stand-up he did yesterday? Because he was kind of blinded. Did you see that? You don't.
I did not
You're
see
not
that.
on social media, so you
I
don't
did
see
see
it.
that,
Yeah.
and I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
That's the worst when you're squinting and
Right.
you know it looks bad.
Anyway, he's going to be calling in around 12:30 or 12:45, somewhere around there. But I guess I would think the headline today is Robert Kraft had his annual media scrum at the owners' meeting and chose to use that as an opportunity to announce that he is selecting Bill Parcells as a contributor to the Patriots Hall of Fame. Reaction.
I think it was the right move. I think sometimes you put the other stuff aside and you do what's right. And I think that Robert Kraft recognized that. I know that the two people that I'm joined by on this panel probably disagree, but
Yeah.
I just feel like you have to get in a place that modern Patriots fans can't even fathom. Because you think this is bad right now. This is nothing.
Compared to what it
winning
used to
4
be.
games in back-to-back years,
Yeah.
the way it's gone down, 4-13, 4-13. This is just regular losing team
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is a mere pittance compared to what Parcells inherited from 90 to 92, when they won 8 games in three total seasons.
Yeah.
But it's not even just about the record; it's about just the absolute disaster. Many felt it was the worst organization in professional sports.
Yep. I
And
agree.
Parcells changed all that.
For a little bit. For his
No,
4
no,
years
he
here.
changed it. It's
Yeah.
never gone back to
And-
that.
and-
He
and-
changed
and
it
he was
forever.
Yeah.
He changed it. They're
Yeah.
never going to be considered the worst organization in the history of sports
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, well, they would have been the organization in St. Louis if it wasn't for Robert Kraft.
I didn't say that Robert Kraft doesn't deserve his flowers too.
But anyway.
but we're not talking about that right now.
Evan,
You
you're
read my story. Did I have that part in my story?
yes, you did.
I did.
Yes, you did. Evan,
I'd first say I'd defer to you guys on this because honestly I was 4 when they were in the Super Bowl in '96, so I'm not the best person to ask this question to. But I look at it on paper, and on paper isn't the same as what Paul is talking about, feeling it and understanding
sure.
the moment
Impact to the team
and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And I fully admit that. I just look at it on paper. He had a 500 record with the Patriots. I get that it was better than what it was before. He made a Super Bowl and then immediately left right afterwards. And I know that there was a lot of drama in that exit strategy that he had. But at the end of the day, Paul is probably right. He lived it. I didn't really live it in that capacity. And his team, his Hall of Fame. So if Mr. Kraft feels like he belongs in, then he's in. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put him in personally, but it's not up
Yeah,
to me.
I think it's you said it. It's the owner's prerogative. It's his team, his Hall of Fame. I think it's the right move for him. It's a magnanimous move. I think, he's getting older, or is old, and he understands what it's like to have these things happen for you while you're still here. He's kind of going through it himself with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I think
good
maybe
point.
I think
That's
maybe
probably part
that
of
kind of softened his stance. And I'm not saying I know for a fact. A lot of people I've heard a lot of people think that the reason why Parcells hasn't been up in the Hall of Fame up to now is because of Kraft. That is 100% not true. Kraft has said behind the scenes to people, put him in. If you want to vote him in, vote him in. He would never stand in the way of that.
So that's the part that really bugs me, and
Yeah.
I take it personally. And you and I have been part of the committee since its inception, and I think we both take it pretty seriously.
Yep.
And that has often been written. Dan Shaughnessy, who I really, really like. I
Right.
like him personally, and I think he's a great columnist. Okay, he writes it all the time. That the pettiness at One Patriot Place is the reason why Bill
Right.
Parcells isn't in the Hall of Fame. We've nominated him several times. He's been a finalist 5 times.
Right.
The fans are the ones who aren't
Right.
putting him in. Now, my assumption would be if Dan was sitting here with us, he would say, well, I'd like to see the fan vote.
Yeah.
And I can tell you with certainty that the fan
There
vote
is
not
no
doctored.
thumb on the scale.
So
there is no thumb
he's
on the
never
scale.
going to get in as long as he's up against any of these
Right.
modern players. It's the same problems to a different scale that, I got an email. Remember Steve Ballesteri? I think
Sure.
that's his
Yeah.
name, right? Steve.
I remember. He's still
great-
alive. He's
great,
still
no,
with
no,
us.
no. But he was. I remember when
Yeah.
he came in. He was great.
Yeah.
Great part of our show. I call him part of the extended family. He sent me a really nice note today.
Yep.
On my story of Parcells, and he said, while we're at it, can we still see if we can do something for like Chuck Fairbanks and Russ Francis,
Right.
guys that absolutely deserve consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
They're never going to get in.
Yeah.
Because Russ Francis is never going to beat out Julian Edelman or
Right.
Wes Welker or Logan Mankins or Rob Gronkowski or Adam Vinatieri, and the list goes on and on.
He'd
and
have
on.
to get in on the Veterans Committee.
Right. He'd
Yeah.
have to do the same kind of thing that
Yeah.
we're talking about. So I understand how people can think that, and how Dan can have that. Well, it's because Robert Kraft doesn't want him in. It's because those petty jerks that are on that committee won't nominate him. That's not why.
It's not.
Parcells
It's not
isn't in.
true. So Robert Kraft took it in. Matters into his own hands and put him in, knowing that it's going to be a long time, if ever, that he gets in. So good. I think it's the right move for him. Personally, my stance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. This is not an argument.
Yeah.
I totally understand why he's a polarizing candidate,
Yeah.
and I understand why.
Yeah, it's a team Hall of Fame. To me, the criteria is much different than the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because I hear a lot of people say, well, he's good enough for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Why isn't he good enough for the Patriots Hall of Fame? For me, it's a different criteria.
So I would just add, and even though I'm pro Parcells being in the Patriots Hall of Fame, it's much different. Like, it's not necessarily the criteria being different. It's he was 32 and 32. Like Evan said, those are the numbers.
Yeah.
So you can make an argument that that's not good enough to be in the Team Hall of Fame. Now, I would strongly weigh the circumstances. They were 8 and 39 in the 3 years
Yeah.
combined leading into his
Yeah.
arrival.
No, I know.
So I'm going to
See,
give him a little bit of slack
No,
for
I
going
don't
5
even,
and 11.
I don't even hold that against him, the record. What I hold against him is all the behind-the-scenes stuff,
Sure.
the drama that
Absolutely.
he created, the year-to-year uncertainty of whether he was going to be here or not, and the trouble that he caused behind the scenes. And it was a negative thing, and that's not, to me, that's not being part of a team Hall of Fame.
And I get that. It
Yeah.
all depends on how much you want to weigh
Right.
on each side. And that's why it's an individual choice.
Yep. So, but good.
But I think it's a good thing. I
It's a
think
good
Robert
thing
Kraft
for the
did a good thing.
Patriots to have him in there. It'll be really cool to see him again. I'm assuming he's going to come up for the event.
Yeah, hopefully.
And as Paul said, we will meet on Thursday to do the normal nomination of a player. So Parcells will go in as a contributor, but we will still have a player this year. We'll have 3 players this year nominated, and then the fans will vote. And whoever gets the highest vote will go in with Parcells.
Yeah, I do like that.
Stacked class,
aspect
by
of
the
it,
way.
Yeah.
that it's a contributor category. Like putting him up on the ballot was getting a little bit tiresome.
Yeah.
He's never going to get
He's
in
never
on
gonna get
fan
in.
vote. So putting him in as a contributor doesn't feel quite as all right, we didn't have to continue doing the nomination. It was at 5 times on the ballot.
Yeah, it almost gets to the point, and Vrabel dealt with this. Vrabel was a 5-time finalist, I believe, before he got in.
He did.
So, yeah, it almost becomes a point where it's almost embarrassing. And it shouldn't be. It should be an honor.
I tell the story about going to Nashville for a conference, and I was in the first row, a woman and her son sitting next to me, and I hear the woman say, why do they just keep nominating? He's never going to get in. Why don't they just take his name off? And I realized it was Vrabel's wife and his son. And at the end, I introduced myself, and I said, he'll get in eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a stacked class this time around, though. I'm very interested to see, because my generation of Patriot fan, Julian Edelman is one of the all-timers and is still very much in the public eye with his podcast and media career. Adam Vinatieri probably should get in first, just on order of operations, but there's going to be a lot of people that are 2010s diehards that are going to vote on Edelman because of his popularity with the fan base, and that'll be interesting. I would vote for Vinatieri just because I think order matters.
I'm surprised that you have that take.
Yeah, I just think he needs to be in.
Well, I think the Patriots, Vinatieri didn't get lucky, but the Patriots got lucky that he didn't get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his first ballot, because then it allows us to get him into the Patriots Hall of Fame first.
Yeah.
So let's take advantage of that and do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no dynasty without Vinatieri, right?
He'd be my pick too, but yeah, I mean, I could definitely see. I mean, I'd be surprised if Edelman doesn't win. I think what Evan said is right. I think he's a fan favorite, and I think he's much more in the public eye.
I give more credit to the fans. I think they would.
I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong.
If Vinatieri's on the ballot, he will get
How long
in.
we been doing this?
I don't know, 50 years.
I'm waiting. No, I meant the Hall of Fame.
That's what I was kidding.
I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong.
Yeah. All right. So that's that to me, that was the headline today, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say that was big news, and we got some league matters that are coming down too, with some rule proposals and changes.
We'll get into some rule debate, rule changes, whether you agree with them or not. We'll talk about that. Like I said, Deuce will be calling in, so maybe we'll wait until he calls in to kind of kick off that discussion.
And we heard from Vrabel yesterday, and there was some minor.
Your guy's getting a lot of criticism.
Which guy?
Felger.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. So Felger had an exclusive. He had a one-on-one because I guess he's set up down in Florida.
Well, he requested that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's down in Florida.
His
Felger.
parents' house is very close.
Yeah.
To there.
So he's taking advantage of being down there, and so we set up, and he had Vrabel, and a lot of people on your station criticizing him for being a softie. It's like you're the first person to criticize the media for being too soft, and then here you are yucking it up. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was okay.
I'm just gonna let that one sit.
Paul doesn't want to, But
Well, you know why?
Why?
No. If you don't, then I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, okay. Well,
he was soft on him.
Yeah, but I thought it was fine. Like he asked, like he talked. He said, I has said that. Oh, maybe that was Wolf that he said that too. Yeah, I guess he was soft with Vrabel.
He was soft with both of them.
No, with Wolf, he
especially
admitted,
Wolf.
He admitted that I said that when Vrabel got here, all you would be doing is checking the fax machine, getting coffee, and picking the players, and turning off the lights at the end of the night. So he admitted that, So I don't think he was necessarily soft with Wolf. Maybe he was a little soft with Vrabel, yucking it up a little bit.
Yeah, so. I thought you were making fun of him because I guess he did an 18-minute interview with Vrabel, and they lost connectivity for like 5 minutes, and he didn't know. So they lost a chunk of the audio. They got it like it's poor quality.
Yeah. So that happens.
They were making fun of him for not having any idea of what he's doing, like from a tech point. He'd be like me. That would happen.
I don't blame
certainly
him for that.
But before that, Vrabel had his breakfast with the media.
Yeah.
34 minutes.
Yeah, it was a
so
long
an
one.
extended talk. What did you glean from that? Anything interesting, newsworthy?
I wrote about it on Patriots.com. There's a few things that stood out. He was asked specifically about a few prospects, which obviously he spoke glowingly about Tyler Warren, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell,
Yep.
Armand Membu. Didn't get asked about Abdul Carter, but all positive stuff. But I thought what was a couple of things I thought were interesting. First one, business in the draft. He basically said we're going to draft a running back, and then today Mr. Kraft basically said we're going to draft a running back too. So it sounds like running back is in play, but I wouldn't say based off of Vrabel's answers that Genty is really what they're looking at, right?
Yeah.
I think that every time he's been asked about running backs, he's backed Ramondre Stevenson and said that the fumbling was not just his fault. That he's got guys hanging all over him, and
really?
there's unblocked rushers, things like that.
I don't like that.
So he's backed Ramondre a handful of times now. So I don't think that they're looking to push Ramondre completely out. But he said that they would like to have a young running back with some juice, some speed. And Mr. Kraft said specifically a speed back. He said, someone that's got some speed. So I think that's on the docket. They're still Will Campbell's a tackle. They feel like he's a tackle. He's gave the line of SEC, competition, and he held up in the SEC. So why not in the NFL? And Travis Hunter just piecing together all the different media stuff that him and Wolf did yesterday. I still feel like pretty strongly that if Travis Hunter is there at 4, they are running that card as fast as they possibly can.
Listen, assuming he's not, though, and assuming Carter's not, I'm all in on Will Campbell. I've decided I am all in on Will Campbell. I like what he has had to say. I like what his supporters have had to say about him and his attitude and his toughness and all that. And listen, at the end of the day, if the worst thing is that he's a really great guard for us for 10 years, then I'm willing to take that chance, in this draft, in this particular draft. So I'm all in on Will Campbell.
Yeah, it definitely feels, they pick 4. So you need 4 players on your board at 4, right? You're not going to put 8 guys because you don't need that many guys. So just reading through the lines a little bit, I think Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are obviously going to be on that short list. And I think the 2 tackles, Campbell and Membu, and I think they're going to decide which would they rather, flip Membu from right to left or hope
I'd rather
that
have the
Campbell
guy
holds
that's
up.
played left tackle, and has good tape, by the way.
It's a fair
played against good competition.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any
Yeah.
either one of those mentalities. I don't want it. If I'm going to take a tackle that high in the draft, I need it to be a surefire left tackle, and there isn't one. So I'm looking somewhere else. But I don't. This is not one of those I'm going to go to the mattresses with you on.
Yeah.
I think it makes perfect sense to say he's a really good tackle in the SEC. Let's find out if he can do it before we just say he can't.
But here's the thing: with all the guys after Hunter and Carter, there's kind of stuff with all of them. The thing I like about Campbell, he's got a safety net. If he doesn't play tackle, he can play guard. If you take Ted McMillan and he's not a good wide receiver, you're not making him a cornerback.
He skips over the 5 other guys.
Like the other guys. The other guys, if they're not good at their position, now you're screwed. So I feel like I have a safety net with Will Campbell.
But that's one guy, Ted McMillan, who also has
Right.
a lot of questions, but he's probably not even going to go in the top 10.
If you take Mason Graham and he's not good at his position, what do you do with him?
If Will Campbell is not good at his position, that's a bust of a pick. I'm sorry.
He plays guard.
Yeah, I know, and that's
But he's still
not good
playing.
value. But that's not good value.
Forget about the
Mason
value.
Graham
the
will
value,
play.
But we've
Fred,
already established
if
that the
Mason
value
Graham-
isn't there in this draft.
If Mason Graham is not a very good defensive tackle,
Yeah.
he's going to continue to play defensive tackle. They're not just going to cut him.
But he's not going to be good at it.
No, just like the guy who can't play tackle.
But he can be good at guard.
It
See, that's
doesn't
what I
matter.
mean. There's a safety net, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't like that reasoning. I don't want to take a safety net pick at number 4.
But you're not going to find a guy in
Tyler
this draft
Warren.
at 4.
Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty.
Yeah, but all these guys, if for some reason they're not good at their position, there's no fallback.
But why are they not good at their position?
Who knows? Do you know for certainty?
Do you know for certain that Will Campbell's going to be a really good guard?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, then I know for certain that Ashton Genty is going to be a really good running
Okay,
back.
then are you going to pick Ashton Genty?
I'd rather pick him than a guard. Yes.
Oh, but you're not picking. Well, okay.
If he can't play tackle, I don't want him.
Okay, but the assumption if you take him is that he can.
Correct.
But you have a
and
fallback.
I'm okay with that.
The assumption if you take Genti is that he can. But if he can't, there's no fallback.
See, what I started this when I said to you, I have no problem doing the Will Campbell can play left tackle. Like the argument that Evan made, I think, last week, strong competition in the SEC, left tackle. He has the profile. I have no so you're telling me the arms don't matter as much to you as others, left tackle. But I'm not doing it because I have a safety net if it doesn't work.
Well, I'm just saying
that doesn't make any sense to me.
In this particular draft, I haven't heard anyone that says that guy's worth a 4th pick. And so
I would agree with that.
So you're compromising with everybody. And at least in this compromise,
but in my opinion,
I have a fallback.
Right. I get that. And you're right. I don't think, if you disagree, jump in. Like, I don't think there is a guy at the 4th pick that is.
Usually I get that fired up about the draft. So
no, but you know what? Like, but I agree with Fred. Like I said, I can't really go to the mattresses with you because I don't think there is a guy at the 4th pick that's consensus. You have to take him.
Right.
I don't think that exists.
This has been a pain point for me with this draft, trying to talk about this draft for months, because it's just the talent at the top is not there this year. The talent at the top is not there. So you can go through 5, 6, 7 different names, and all of them have warts, whether it's the position that they play, it's their athletic profiles, it's their arms are too short, they're smaller prospects for their position. One's a right tackle that you're going to have to play at left tackle. One's got short arms. Tet McMillan's a slow receiver. He's a mid-4.5s receiver. Like, you're taking that at 4 overall. Tyler Warren's a really good player, but I think his best trait is versatility. I don't think he's a dominant athlete necessarily. I think he's a very versatile, a very well-rounded tight end. That's great, but I don't think that's worth the 4th overall pick in most drafts. That's not this year.
Right.
So what I've continued to say is that this is where filling needs and improving weaknesses in the football team comes into play more in a draft like this than a draft like maybe last year, where you could make an honest case for Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt, right? Or, Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever. This is not that class, unfortunately. The talent is not there at the top.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that no one thinks that X is the guy that should be taken 4th. So I'm okay with Will Campbell. I don't want this sort of proceed. I just would say that, like you're talking about, there's no one that has the value of the 4th overall pick. Well, in my view, this is not like fact. This is just my view. Guard would be the least valuable thing that you could take at that pick. So if you don't think you can play tackle, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. No,
I would rather have.
But I do think he can play.
I would rather have a guy who turns out to be an average tight end or an average running back than a really good guard.
No, I agree with
4.
that. I would, if he was a guard, I wouldn't even consider him at 4.
Yeah, so if they want to take him as a tackle, I won't be hard to push and convince.
That's what I am recommending.
But I think what Fred's getting at too is, let's say, as a rookie, he's your best left tackle on the roster, right? I think that's not debatable. So you're going to play him at left tackle as a rookie. But if we go into next offseason and Rashawn Slater is a free agent and actually hits unrestricted free agency, and you can throw $25 million at Rashawn Slater, is it the worst thing in the world to then kick Campbell inside to left guard and have a left side for the next 5 years that's Rashawn Slater and Will Campbell?
No, but would it be the worst thing in the world if you just plug in somebody at left tackle like Caden Wallace, who Vrabel said yesterday, I think we'll get a look there.
Yep.
And just, fill the spot for a year and then sign Rashawn Slater next year.
Yes. I think
what's the difference?
Caden Wallace might get your quarterback killed. That's the difference.
I mean, if Will Campbell can't play tackle, why is he not getting your quarterback killed?
Well, because I don't think that he can't play tackle. He just might not be as good of a tackle as he would be at guard.
But I'm talking he's not going to be able to play the position.
I don't think that's. I think he'll have a baseline level of being able to play the position. It's more just what's his upside at tackle versus what's his upside at guard.
And I also don't love the idea of because we've fallen into this before. You have the safety net. He's a great guard. Like, okay, if you say so. I mean, there's plenty of guys that get taken that are surefire players in the top 10 that don't end up being good.
Yeah. No, I think
like Jonathan Cooper was like a 6th overall pick. I think he stunk as a guard.
I wouldn't I would just look at Will Campbell as a tackle and leave it there. But I understand where he's coming from, that if worse comes to worse, then you can move him inside, right? And he still has an NFL career playing on the inside.
Yeah,
but I think
there's all these reasons not to take these guys at 4. I'm looking for a reason to take a guy at 4.
But I don't like that reason.
But in this draft, you have to.
Because I think
biggest
you're
reason-
making an assumption that I'm not willing to make.
Okay.
He's going to be a great guard. Like, I don't know that.
Well, I'm looking for reasons. I'm trying to make lemon out of lemonade. I mean, lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, I got what
You know what I'm saying?
It still doesn't make sense.
I think the biggest thing to advocate for Will Campbell, which I've done plenty of, so I don't have to keep doing it, but the football character in the guy that you're getting is apparently off the charts.
And I love that too.
Yeah, like you are getting a guy that most project will be like a year 2 captain and like a captain for your football team for like the next 10 years.
By the way, I talked about it last week. I've come up with the foolproof measuring system for these guys. And I mentioned like
The guys that block like this.
No, I mentioned you should do it from the. So here's how it works, okay?
Yeah.
He's leaning up against the wall. His head has to be touching the wall. Arms out,
Yeah.
fingers up, and
Fingers
then
up.
there's a measurement on the floor. All right.
Yeah.
Then there's a sliding thing that comes up and meets his hands,
Oh.
and you can't fudge it. You can't fudge it. It is what it is. Everyone's the same, and you know exactly what the base of his hands, what the measurement is, and there's no fudging it. There's no leaning forward because his back has to be against the wall, head has to be touching, and everyone is apples to apples. And there is no inconsistency with this measuring system. Call it the Fred Kirsch lineman arm length measuring system.
What's crazy is you could probably make some money off of that. Like the
oh,
NFL
yeah.
will pay you a lot of money if you actually could manufacture this machine.
It's portable, but it's foolproof. It is foolproof.
Yeah, it's a tough draft.
Emphasis on the fool.
Oh.
Why are we? Like,
What's
are we,
wrong with
are
that?
we just going to talk about arm length forever?
Yeah.
No, but
Especially if they draft
I
him.
want to put you incorporate my system and you do away with the talk forever. You don't ever have to talk about it anymore because there's no controversy. It is what it is. This is the number. There's no fudging it.
Okay.
And now we don't have to talk about this arm length all the time. So,
I do think we talk a lot more about the arm length than the people actually making these decisions in the NFL do. I don't think a lot of people are having these extensive conversations that actually make decisions in the league about arm length. I think this is all the combine stuff, all of this stuff is always secondary to the tape. Like what does he do on tape? And then, we get into these other things I think are small pieces to the puzzle, not the main pieces of the puzzle. But it's a tough draft.
the main pieces is tape,
Yeah,
and I like what I see.
I do as well.
And the
Some people agree with you.
And the second piece is his character and his love of football and his toughness.
I would say a lot. Everybody agrees.
And
with
I
you on
love that too.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on Will Campbell. Sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm good. You guys are selling me. I'm
Now,
good. As long
again,
as he plays tackle, I'm good.
If Carter or Hunter are there, now I have to start thinking. Now I'm probably going to take Hunter or Carter, but I'm assuming they're not going to be there.
Yeah. Look, there's outliers at everything. There's outliers for short arm tackles, and there's outliers for right tackles moving to left tackle. Tristan Wirfs moved from right to left. Your guy Tyron Smith moved from right to left. He was a right tackle at USC. But those are the only two guys that have done it at a really high level in the last 20 years or so. So you're talking about two guys that might be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame someday as the Armand Membu comp, right? Yeah. You were talking about some really good players. Jedrick Wills did it too, but I don't think Jedrick Wills is in that category with those other two. But, both of them are kind of outliers.
Just a funny note, I was on Peloton last night, and there's a program in Peloton where you can choose to ride through cities or whatever, and one of the options was Marseille, France. Eric would like that. So I'm riding through this city street, and there's tourists everywhere. There's a young kid with a Drake May North Carolina shirt on. I couldn't believe it. That was was funny. Of all the random college shirts, there's Drake May in Marseille.
Wow.
Paul wants to get him killed.
What?
Scrub left tackles out there.
Oh, I think that's what. Well, never mind.
Anyway, all right. Careful.
I'll edit myself. there,
Careful. All right.
just in case.
So we're going to talk about rule changes coming up. We talked about Robert Kraft and Mike Vrabel, Bill Parcells. We talked about the draft. One thing about Robert Kraft's scrum that I thought was interesting, him getting a little bit kind of edgy when asked about succession. And he said, that's kind of a biased question, talking about age. In other words, I'm not going anywhere. So why we have a plan. Don't worry about it. But, don't kick me out of the door before I'm ready. Did you catch that?
I did.
Yeah.
I have no problem. Like, I get why the question was asked, obviously, but is anybody confused as to who's taking over the team next? Like,
No.
we all
Yeah.
know it's Jonathan, right?
Right.
Oh, I thought it was Fred.
Yeah. Well, that's the part that confused me about the question.
Listen,
is like,
Robert's going to outlive me. So you don't have, that's not even, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
see Robert's scrum.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well,
I feel like
they
It's
didn't
posted
post it.
now.
It's posted now.
okay.
But we didn't cover that live like we did.
No, I knew
Vrabel.
that, but I didn't. You
Yeah.
guys sounded like you had all seen it, and
Well,
haven't.
I saw
Yeah.
it because I think somebody else posted it. Maybe Mark Daniels or somebody else.
I watched
Yeah.
the whole thing before. It's up on the site and
Yeah.
YouTube and everything now.
I'll check it out after
Yeah,
the show.
he did. But that was just my takeaway from the. I mean, like I think it's pretty obvious who's next in line to run the team.
Right.
I mean,
Many say he's already running the team.
right. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. So, okay. What else? Anything?
More questions about the team playing, Fred. Which,
And that's a good. By the way, I'm glad that Robert addressed that
yeah.
because we're on the plane. You've been on the plane. Have you been on the new plane?
I have, but I don't.
Yeah.
Not like you guys every week.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to come out and say it on the show because I don't go back in the players. I've gone through it quickly to get off the plane, but I didn't take an audit. But I have never seen an ashtray on that plane. I just didn't want to say because I couldn't have been sure. But there's no ashtrays on that plane.
I've never seen an ashtray.
No.
I sometimes I feel like when the things about the plane come up, I do get a little bit like annoyed by it because the treatment that we get when we go on that plane is
Yeah, you're catered.
first class.
It's the only way to
But
travel.
somebody's filling out that NFLPA survey, and they could have made a joke. The plane's so old it has ashtrays.
Right.
It could have been a throwaway line, but it's taken as gospel because there's no way to are you serious about that or not?
Yeah.
But there's no ashtrays on the plane.
Not that I've seen. I mean, there's certainly things that they could upgrade. We've talked about it. That could be upgraded.
Oh yeah, the Wi-Fi can be better for sure.
Yeah, but the service that you get on this plane,
Right.
you are on Air Force One. Like
Yeah.
the amount of food that they throw at you, the attention that the stewardesses
And-
give.
and listen,
like it's just
in
to
terms of
complain
the-
about it is just
This
kind
guy, stewardesses.
Yeah, they call them flight
They're flight
attendants.
attendants.
now.
Oh, are they?
Come on.
Yeah.
Is that a different name?
Yeah, it is now. But anyway, I would make the same mistake.
Yeah.
But the whole
But you're 100.
the whole travel process itself is, I think, top notch. I
Yeah.
think a few years ago, particularly with Belichick, there were a couple hotels that he liked to go to because of maybe they were a little bit more secluded, that were probably less than a 4-star hotel. And I think that when the last NFLPA survey came out, they said, we got to stop going to those, hotels in New Jersey that are right on the highway. And so all the hotels we stay at now are at least 4-star hotels.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything is, the players get catered to. It's everything they want, they get.
It's the only way to travel. I say it all the time. People
Yeah.
ask me what it's like. It's like,
Yeah.
spoil you for traveling regular.
So I didn't understand
forever.
the F when it came to the travel. I don't understand where that came from. But I'm sure there were some other reasons. But there are no ashtrays on the plane.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I
I don't
know
have
how you
anything to
can complain
compare it
about
to, so I don't know what other teams do.
That's fair.
But I just can't imagine, and I did it for, 10, 12, 15 years with you, Freddie. I never had any issues.
Right, and that was before.
Even the time that I was late, Dante scolded me when I got on the plane.
I mean, just
That was
the,
fine.
the
He didn't really
amount
scold
of
me. He just gave me a shaking of the head.
the amount of food alone that they give you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even just for a flight to New Jersey to go play the Jets is like eat for a week just
Yeah.
with all the options that they have. So I don't know. I don't know how you can really complain too much.
Yeah. But I'm glad he said that, out loud. Because I wanted to say it, but I just, well, maybe there's a couple out back that I don't know about, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. He also, not that it was like, it was kind of common sense, but he had a line in there about the draft, and he kind of picked out some positions, which I thought was interesting that they would target in the draft.
Yeah.
And then
I wish he would leave that out. I wish he would just say, I defer to the people that I pay to do that stuff.
Yeah. So, offensive line, receiver, and he said speed running back in particular.
Yeah.
Not
So somebody told him that.
Well, that's sort of what I'm getting at. Like,
Right.
we're not talking about LeGarrette Blount. He said speed running back specifically. And I can't imagine that he caught himself and said, just speaking as a fan. I was
Right.
like,
No.
well, obviously.
It's like the year when Pete Carroll got here and they were talking about the draft, and all of a sudden, Robert Kraft started using this term press corner.
Yeah.
And up to then, we hadn't
I
really
remember
used that.
That was
And it's
Tabaki
like,
Jones.
okay, just stop.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But my next mock draft will be tackle, receiver, running back. I can tell you that because he basically just told you that that's what they're going to do. So
Yeah.
it is common sense a little bit, though.
Okay.
Cam Scatterboo.
Yeah.
don't know
Listen,
about
I want him
speed,
on my
but-
football team.
Freddie would be just beside himself.
I want him on my
Excited.
football team. And I like this Trapillo guy, too,
Ozzy.
as a later round pick.
He's going to be,
He's
I
gonna
think
be
he's
a
going to
day
be a
two
top
pick.
100 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Really?
good player.
You
Yeah.
identify guys in the 7th round that go in the 2nd and 3rd all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scatterboo worries me about longevity. The way he plays and how hard he plays. And
Well, he's not going to get the reps he gets in college here.
yeah, but the amount of contact that he takes on as
He
a
doesn't
runner
avoid contact.
would worry me. But
Small shelf life.
We need that toughness.
that game
He's a
against
Vrabel guy.
that game against Texas is
Paul doesn't like toughness.
unbelievable.
No.
He
I-
likes grace and eliteness.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Until you get hit in the mouth, and then grace goes down the tubes.
Speed. Speed and size.
Speed is good. Tyquan Thornton.
No.
Oh, he wasn't speedy?
He wasn't good.
Okay, but he was fast. So fast alone doesn't
You
get
know
you
what?
there.
You guys all told me he was fast. I got to be honest with you, and I never saw that manifested on the field.
No, he was
That's
fast.
fair.
I never saw him look fast on
He
the
just
field. I
wasn't-
never saw him run
He
behind
just
guys
wasn't
on the
football
field.
fast. And
Correct.
and there's
So
a
that's not
difference.
fast.
And there's
Yeah.
a difference.
No, it's a fair
I
point.
don't care about track and field. I care about football. And I
Okay.
never saw the speed that you guys told me about.
Yeah.
That Matt Groh
you
told me
guys.
about.
Oh,
Matt
boy,
Groh.
like,
I know.
we're getting
Matt Groh.
blamed for
Like,
it
remember
now.
when he
I
think
know.
it was actually you. Wasn't it you that he was sort of teasing?
Probably.
If you want to get
grinding
faster,
the tape? That
you
was
got to
before
draft
you worked
fast
for us,
guys.
wasn't it?
It was before, yeah.
And didn't he? Wasn't it you that asked a question about it? Might not.
I
have
don't.
been.
I don't 100% remember, so I don't want to say it was me. But it
I
sounds
think
like
it was.
something that he would say.
And he
to
said,
me.
you really grinding the tape on that one? Like he was being dismissive.
Actually, probably, yeah. For being honest.
So yeah, I never saw it. I never saw that football speed that
Yeah.
we were told
No,
about.
he was not football fast, and I think that was a good lesson for everybody, myself included, when watching a lot of these guys. There are guys that are football fast, and there are guys that are track fast.
Also, a guy that has to run around in the shower to get wet might be a little bit fragile, right?
yeah.
Fair point too.
But I think
But can't we have a little bit of everything? Like, can we
Right.
get some? Can we get some speed and athleticism and big playability?
Yeah.
And sure, get some power. I mean, and like the Eagles, they're great on both sides of the line. They have more than their share of power.
Yeah.
But they also have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And I think Dallas Goedert is a very underrated athletic tight end.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley. I mean, these guys are elite athletes too.
Yeah, I think you hear a lot more nowadays play speed. Like that's like a new kind of buzzword is like, what's his play speed? Because we have all this GPS tracking data, and on top of that, you want to see if the guy's actually football fast. I don't really care if he ran the 4.28 anymore. So that there's a lot more of that going on.
Fred wants to bring Toby Gerhardt back.
Oh, I like Toby
It's not a bad
Gerhardt.
Toby. It's not a bad,
Gerhardt.
not a bad Cam Scatterboo comp.
Speaking of speed and power, if I was inclined to go that way, Ashton Genty, I would. He's an impressive specimen. I can
My
tell
guess is Deuce has already got you beat on that
you.
one.
Yeah, he's an impressive specimen.
He's very good.
I
He's
saw
very
that pro day with his shirt off, and He's like,
My God.
what?
He's sculpted.
He is something.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
he's a
and,
great
you know,
player.
like he's a big guy.
Yeah.
Like I think he's only like 5'8", 5'9",
5'8".
5'8", but he's thick.
Yeah, he's
He
5'8",
is
like
thick. What is he?
215.
215.
Yeah.
All muscle.
Yeah.
All muscle. Those tree trunks and holy crap.
Yeah, no, I mean he's
Somebody's going to get themselves a good player
100%.
when they pick him.
100%. No argument.
But you don't want it because there's no safety net if he's not a great running back. There's nothing else for him to
Yeah.
do, so you don't want it.
I think he might be the one exception. I think he's going to be good.
That was snarky.
No, I know. Listen, fair enough. But I think whoever picks him, I think they're going to get good value.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's the question.
I'm
is
with
now.
Evan on running backs.
The word is value.
Right,
Like,
it's hard.
If you
Yeah.
draft him that early and he's Bijan Robinson, who's a really good running back, but like what has that really led to for Atlanta? Like it hasn't turned Atlanta around that they have a really talented running back. And I actually, Bijan was bigger and more physical.
Barkley was a top 5 pick, right?
Yeah.
And
Second overall.
he
got hurt a lot though with the Giants.
well, that's part of it.
I know.
At that position, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Christian McCaffrey with the Panthers.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much you can do. But I do understand that people push back. The guys that defend the running backs push back against our types. Evan and I, and Felger is also in our class with that. Isn't that it's the same for any position? I mean, if you have this great wide receiver on the outside, but you don't have any way to get him the ball,
Right.
I mean, what good is he? Malik Neighbors was as good as any rookie wide receiver last year, but the Giants stunk because
Right.
they didn't have the rest.
Yeah,
So
if it's not quarterback, the other pieces put you over the top. But you got to have the quarterback. You got to have good quarterback play in this.
Well, that's what might separate the Patriots from the Giants and the Carolina
Right.
Panthers and
Right.
that of those teams.
You have the
Is they
quarterback.
have the quarterback.
We think.
We think.
Yeah.
But they have a talented young quarterback. I just think the biggest thing with Genti is, besides the running back value conversation, is he carried the ball 750 times in college. Like he was the Boise State offense. They literally, gave him the ball in every way possible. So
yeah.
the way I look at his career path could be very similar to somebody like Zeke Elliott, who was really, really good out of the gate, had a really strong rookie contract, and then just has started to tail off almost completely at this point. How long are you going to have peak Ashton Genti based off of all of that?
Yeah, not everyone's Curtis Martin. That can last
It's
forever.
good. It's a good point.
Or Emmett
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
All right. 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. We don't have do we have a sponsor for the hotline yet? No, we're still calling it Patriots Hotline. All right. Today's April 1st.
Yeah.
Has any April Fool's jokes
Not
hit
that
you
I
yet?
know of.
Tiger Woods had a good one. He said he was going to play in the Masters.
Oh, yeah? And then he said April Fool's?
Yeah.
Oh, Big Head. Text me and Paul when Parcells' announcement came. Is this an April Fool's joke? How cruel would that have to be to make that an April Fool's joke that Robert...
Like we would get
Yeah.
all kinds of criticism for
Oh,
that.
my God. I mean, that even I would say that's too cruel, Anyway.
I told my kids they didn't have school today.
Oh, and then April Fool's? That's pretty cruel at that
Wow.
age.
Wow.
Yay!
That's hardcore.
All right, let's get to the hotline. We'll start with Sam in North Carolina. Hey, Sam.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Sam.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there he is. What's up, Sam?
What's going on, guys? I just want to say that I think Abdul Carter falling to us or our choice of Travis Hunter becomes more and more realistic. I think Cleveland might take Shador number 2. That's really my dream. I'd like to have Abdul Carter and then do the trade-up thing like Barb talked about and come back and get Hersey or Conley.
So
That would be pretty
what
nice.
makes you think that they'll take Shador? Have you any information that you've come across, or is it just a gut feeling?
I mean, right now they don't have any starting quarterbacks. You got Kenny Pickett, small hand Kenny, and you got Deshaun Watson that ain't even going to play just towards Achilles.
Right.
But, I mean, they need a quarterback, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why I think they're going to take it.
All right.
yeah, I don't.
Kind of a weird connection, but thanks, Sam.
I don't see much of a chance of that, and I'm just going by the scuttlebutt
Yeah.
that has been going on for, 2 maybe 3 weeks now. It seems like it's a done deal with him and Cleveland and Kirk Cousins. Now, you might say, why are they going to, after the year that Kirk Cousins had last year, why would they want him? Fair point, fair argument, but that's what it seems like it's going to. Personally, I would rather run it with Kenny Pickett than draft Shedeur Sanders at 2. Like, I don't really see much of, it's not like you're passing on one of the guys last year in the top 3, Drake May, and you're going to say, well, we're good. We got Kenny Pickett.
Right.
No, and there's a lot of questions about Shedeur Sanders.
Was this whole thing with Deshaun Watson trade and Dak Prescott, was that all BS?
Yes.
So there was nothing to that?
Yeah, Dak Prescott actually has a no-trade clause, so it would be even
that was
more
an
of
April
another-
Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Kirk Cousins in Cleveland, it seems like that's going to happen post-draft maybe.
It sounds like,
Yeah.
anyway. And I guess Cousins is adamant that he does not want to, he won't agree to a deal until after the draft.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to get Michael Penix again.
Yeah. Jimmy Haslam was quoted last week as saying, we really screwed up.
That's accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, I know,
But
small solace for Cleveland fans, but.
He could have listened to 1 million people before and avoided that.
So I just think the contract was ridiculous.
I
I
not
don't
getting the player, it was the contract.
But I've heard a ton of criticism for getting the player, and I don't get that.
Oh, no.
Other than the fact that he's off-field stuff.
Right.
That's a different argument. But the problem to me is you're giving a guy with all kinds of off-field issues a fully guaranteed contract. That made no sense.
Right.
But who thought that the Houston version of Deshaun Watson was done?
Right.
I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
it was the contract. It was ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, with the Browns and with quarterbacks, there's a school of thought that, Kirk Cousins is obviously the guy, but if you sign Kirk Cousins and then you draft a quarterback, why can't you do that, right? Why can't you do both? But I look at it and say the Giants, the Browns, if the Jets, even the Raiders, I think they're buying time for a better quarterback class.
I agree.
I look at it that way. But
that's what everybody's doing.
Right.
Yeah. I think if anybody, and I think you made this point last week, Evan, I agreed 1,000%. If you just go by what everybody's doing, it seems like there's nobody convinced that Shedeur Sanders is the answer.
Right.
Because they're all going out of their way to make signings that, if you liked Sanders, would seem to me to be, unnecessary.
Yep.
Why would you take 2 guys? Cleveland, why are you going to take 2 guys? And then if you planned on drafting a guy.
Right.
Makes no sense to me.
All right. On the phone from Florida, the Breakers Resort is Deuce. Deuce, what's up?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. Did you get your eyesight back yet?
No, not yet. Matt's leading me around. I got my cane out. So, yes, I am blind here in Florida.
Yeah.
But at least it's sunny from what they tell me.
Okay. Well, that's good. Good job yesterday. A lot of stuff to talk about. What's your headline that you want to bring to us?
Oh, I mean, we're fresh off of the Bill Parcells announcement, so that's, I think, most interesting today. Found myself going back to my old past propaganda blog, and in 2015, I was against Parcells going in, but I think I've evolved a little bit, and I'm kind of good with it. I know I listened to the beginning of the show. You guys are a little bit divided. We've talked about this before, but I just think when you look back, and for me personally, I can't ignore his hiring changed this whole franchise. It went from not feeling like we were the NFL to you were in the NFL. He drafted a bunch of great players that were foundational pieces for championships, and I think it's the right move at this time.
Okay. All right. What else? So we haven't really got into the rule changes.
We're waiting for
We're
Deuce.
waiting for you to talk about them. So why don't you talk about some of the more major rule changes that we'll look forward to this year?
Yeah, just a couple that stood out to me. The overtime rules now will match what they were in overtime. But listening to Rich McKay talk about why they shifted it to 10 minutes, putting more of a time crunch on the teams in overtime. They felt like if they kept it at 15 minutes for the overtime period, with both teams getting the ball, that teams would be tempted to defer again and not take the ball immediately. They felt like statistically putting it at 10 minutes, you want the ball. You're not going to have enough time probably. You want to try to run the clock out. I think they said the average drive time was 5 minutes. So That was interesting to me. I know they did some research on that, and then of course changing the yard line to the 35, moving that out a little bit. I think just to encourage more kickoffs, more returns. And those are the two big pieces so far. I was waiting to see on the tush push, but it sounds like they've punted that one to May. But it does seem like there's a lot of good discussion going on about that, and there's a lot of people passionately for it, passionately against it. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes down the road.
What about the increase in review assistance? They changed that a little bit.
Replay assist.
Replay assist.
Oh, I haven't seen the discussion on that one yet, so I'll have to get back to you on that piece of it.
Okay.
I did see some of the taunting penalties. They've increased those. I think that was a big topic of discussion today. Of course, you guys know me. Love the fun, so.
Yeah, you want more of those penalties, I can tell. Deuce, were you at the press conference, or I'm not sure how that information was delivered. The Rich McKay comment that you made about. Did anybody ask a follow-up? Is like, why would you care what the coin toss winner does? Why are we anti-deferring? I don't really understand that being part of the decision making on overtime. We're trying to discourage teams from deferring. What was the rationale behind that?
Yeah, that question, that follow-up was not asked within the meeting. I mean, it was.
That's what happens
there
when I don't
there
go
were
places.
some questions, but that one specifically wasn't answered. I mean, that's a good question, Paul. You're always sharp on these things.
Yeah, I mean, Evan and I were talking as we came in, Deuce. I kind of think that the reason that they kept it at 10, and Evan made this point, is TV. And I just don't like that idea. But, they want to keep it in as close to the windows as they can, for the networks, 1 to, 4:25 or whatever it is. You have a better chance, obviously, if it's only a 10-minute overtime than going to 15. I can't for the life of me figure out why the league would care what a team opts to do, whether they win the coin toss.
If they're worried about the window, wouldn't 15 minutes increase the odds that by the end of 15 there's a result rather than we're still tied?
See, I think you're going to open the door for more ties by doing it this way. So now both
That's
teams,
what I think.
Yeah,
That's
both
what I'm
teams get the
saying.
ball.
Exactly.
And I think if you keep it at 10 and the game doesn't end on the first touchdown, I think you have a much bigger chance for ties, and I don't think that anybody wants
I hate
that.
ties.
Dude, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I think he's saying is that the team that possesses the ball first, there wouldn't be as much urgency to move the football because you're trying to kill clock, right? So that's what they were trying to avoid was they don't want teams sitting on the ball, So in a 10-minute overtime, maybe there would be a little bit more urgency to move.
But I think it increases the chances.
I do too,
of that.
but I feel like that's the answer that they're giving is they don't want. They want there to be an urgency to overtime.
I don't know because I didn't see it. I just Deuce had mentioned that was the Rich McKay comment that they're trying to discourage teams from deferring in overtime, and I just don't understand. And I don't understand even what Evan was saying that if that's what he meant. I think teams now have a chance. I saw Albert Breer earlier tweeted this. You get the ball to start overtime, and the other team can match you. You want to score and take up as much time as you can.
Right.
So I'm going to go in my 4-minute offense.
Right.
I'm going to try to go down and score while being cognizant of chewing clock.
Right.
And if I can go on an 8-minute touchdown drive, which is not abnormal at all.
Right.
Now I really put the other team behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Now I will say that strategy-wise, I agree. And strategy-wise, with 10 minutes, I do want to get the ball first because I don't know if I'm probably never going to get it back again. So
I would want the ball first regardless.
Yeah.
In overtime.
Well, I would too. Even if it's 15 minutes.
Right.
There might be 3 possessions. If I can get 2 of them, I want that. Right.
Yeah. Now I know
the nerds are going to be crunching these numbers.
With unlimited time, you could make an argument for deferring. I think it happened in the Super Bowl, the San Francisco, Kansas City. That, to me, there's no time. I'm not worried about the end of the quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be a little bit different, but...
Can we ask Deuce the important questions now?
Sure, go ahead.
So Deuce, have you had the party yet? I know there's always
the party... Oh, there's some good tidbits from the party. Unfortunately, it was a little bit marred by inclement weather. We were outside to begin, then the lightning started striking, so they had to move some of it inside. But two highlights to share with you guys. The first one being Serena Williams was there, who pretty cool all-time athlete. Kind of fun to see her there. And then a little bit of a story. So we're getting ready to wrap up the night, and Matt Smith was saying maybe we should sneak out the back, and I said, no, let's just walk out the front. So as we're walking out the front, I lay eyes on some spiky bleached hair, a longer goatee, some sunglasses, and I said, oh my God, it's one of Matt Smith's personal heroes, Guy Fieri, in the flesh, here at the NFL owners meeting party. So I know that this is going to go over great. I look at
Guy
Matt.
Fieri.
Oh. I said, Matt, Guy Fieri is here. He was very excited. He went over there. I got a little video of him like standing in line, not in line, but just kind of getting his way into the little group that Guy Fieri was with. And then had a nice conversation with him, told him how much he appreciates Guy Fieri's trash can nachos. Guy Fieri, very gracious. And then as Matt was, after they stopped speaking, Matt was stopped briefly at Nick Casario's wife to say hello. And Guy Fieri came walking by and gave Matt a big pat on the back and like, all right, buddy, have a good one. So Matt was on cloud nine last night.
Wow. So Deuce, in terms of overall excitement, the excitement level on a scale of Matt meeting Guy Fieri and you looking longingly at Mike Vrabel when he's talking, where would you put Matt?
I got to give Matt the edge on that one.
I don't know about that.
I'm always acutely aware, but look, Mike Vrabel makes jokes. You guys know me. I'm a laugher. I'm a smiler. So they click a pic.
Good audience.
After, Mike Vrabel starts flaming Felger about playing tight end and dropping the ball in his last game and costing the team the win, which I found delightful. And so, of course, I get clicked with a pic, smiling and laughing at the joke, as everyone else was. But it seems like I'm just sitting there like a big idiot with a dumb smile on my face at everything Mike Vrabel says.
That would be accurate.
Deuce, I have, I get FOMO about the owners' meetings not being there with you. So, how's the media doing? What's the temperature right now?
Good question.
Yep.
Evan.
Mood.
Good question.
Mood.
I would say it's a pretty good mood. I think everyone's pretty excited, to be in some warm weather right now. So that was overall the biggest thing for me. A little bit of a scramble this morning doing RKK's interview. We had a location. We had to move. So we were a little bit of a scramble going on this morning. But didn't see many of the media out partying too hard last night. It was pretty low-key affair compared to some of the owners' meeting parties we've had in the past. Maybe because it was inside. But it was a little bit more crowded, a little harder to get food and drinks and stuff. So I think everybody usually carved out a spot on a couch or a table and kind of held their own area like that. So nothing too crazy. Everybody's here and, excited to talk to Vrabel and the good stuff yesterday from him and then again today with RKK and the Vrabel and the Parcells news.
Knowing how ultra competitive the media is there starting to be a little bit of resentment toward Karen, her preferential treatment? I hope not, but are some of the guys starting to not treat her the same? Or?
Like, why does she always get the first question?
Yeah,
like come on.
What's the woman? Helen Thomas?
Yeah,
I think they're following Vrabel's lead from that initial press conference that he had, where he called. Said I would have called on Karen first.
Yeah. And
so they're a little bit deferring to her, but we tried to save her a seat at the table. She's an established member, so I think she deserves.
Good
all
for
the respect. Her. But I did think it was funny. I don't know if you guys watched it, but Vrabel said, "I'm not finished yet." Kind of joking with her a little bit. So he was having some fun with her too, and good questions as always from Karen. So no resentment yet. I don't know how you could present Karen Green.
Well, but these guys they're very, very competitive.
I almost am starting.
I wish they would show it and how they covered the team.
Oh, whoa!
I'm almost starting to feel. I'm going to gloss right over that. I'm almost starting to feel bad for Karen because now you have to have a question. Because you know that you're going to
be ready,
and he does it every time. He's like, he's Karen, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm up."
Yeah, you got to. Now every press conference, like during the season, we talk to him 3-4 times a week. Right. So now is she going to have a question every single? I would be.
Yeah,
I'd be a little nervous about that. Exactly.
All right, Mike. Anything else before we let you go? Is it lunchtime there? You going to eat?
Yeah, we just grabbed some food, and we're getting ready to head down to Fort Lauderdale to catch our flight back. So I'll be back in the office tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you guys, getting back on the show. It's been a quick trip, but good one as always. And Yeah, different, just different vibe, I would say. You can feel, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I think the excitement around the team, it just feels like a renewed sense of energy. You heard Vrabel talk about it. You heard Robert talk a little bit about it today. I think those things are continuing to happen, and I think we're all getting excited to see what happens a few weeks in the draft.
Sounds good. All right, Deuce. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
Safe travels.
I think he hung up on you.
Yeah, he hung up. Wow.
Safe travels, Michael.
All right. Good time to take a break. We're going to do that. When we come back, more calls and emails here on Patriots Unfiltered. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
On the young receivers you just talked about, and also the offense, right, with Josh. You know that offense. You saw it for years with Tom. It's been difficult for receivers, young receivers, to be able to pick it up with the sight adjustments and some of the other stuff. So how close is this offense that Josh is going to run going to be to what he ran when Brady was there? Or will you make changes to make it easier to pick it up?
There'll be changes. There has to be changes, right? There has to be. We have to start somewhere. And, to say that Drake is going to be, similar to somebody else in his system after 5 or 6 years, I don't think that's fair to say. So, we're going to start with a foundation, and those are the most important things, and building and making sure that the receivers, we're not just going to go past something because it says it on the schedule. Like if it takes us an extra day, then it takes us an extra day. If it takes us an extra week to get the first couple installs in, then that's what it's going to take. We're not just going to gloss over things. We believe strongly in teaching and helping those players and figuring out how they learn best and making sure that we're doing everything we can to give them a chance to help themselves.
Mike, Joe Milton, just curious your thoughts on him, and if there's any sense from conversations with other teams that you might have an asset there that could have value to, in any potential discussions with other teams.
Yeah, I think Joe's did everything that they asked him to do last year. It sounds like in conversations that he worked extremely hard. And that's tough when you're a quarterback. Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to be the starter. And that's great to have that attitude. And he was ready for his opportunity there late in the season, which I commend him on, just like I would any player that sat there and went through a long season, a difficult season, and then got the opportunity, went out, won a football game, played well, helped his team win. And then, where that leads to, we'll see as the draft approaches, or, where Joe is on April 7th to start our offseason program. But, you have to give Joe credit for being ready to go, going from the third quarterback to being able to win that football game and stay ready and stay hungry.
How about that game? Your life would be easier for you right now had they lost. Are you happy that they won, given that as a coach, as a player? As
I mean, it's a difficult season, and, you want to compete and fight, that those players out there were doing everything that they could to win a football game. And I think that's the mentality, that's the environment that you want to create. So to say that there's any other reason, I think that's not what you want to create. And somebody has the first pick, somebody's going to have the second or the third. But those players, man, that's put yourself in their position like that, to get that opportunity to go out there and play and to compete and put tape out there like that. That's important. That's important for their career. That's important to instill that in a football team. And I don't think you could have it any other way. So I'm proud of all those guys that did that, and they fought and they won a football game.
Mike, you guys matched the offer sheet on Christian Ellis. Why was that important for you guys to do?
Well, and this was a difficult decision. It was one that we, ultimately decided that a young ascending player that has a skill set and speed and feel like he can do a lot of different things for us, and that his arrow was up, and that we felt like we wanted to keep him on the roster. So in order to do that, we had to match the offer sheet, and Christian is excited by all accounts to be back. We're excited to have him. This is a player, the more he played, I think the better that he got. Was very good on third down and fourth down, and then first and second down, the more he played, the better he got on first and second down.
Mike, joint practices this summer, anything set in stone there?
Still waiting for the NFL, but have had conversations with Minnesota. Washington, I think, would like to come up. We'd love to go to Minnesota if the NFL, gives us those opportunities.
What draws you to Minnesota?
Cheese curds. We practiced with them a few years ago in Tennessee. It's a nice setup. They got a beautiful facility. There's a hotel close by. You can walk to the field. Just have enjoyed working with Kevin and B-Flow in their team.
What are the most important things you have to do leading up to the draft for you personally, the next 4 weeks or so?
Just have enough exposure with those players in the first few rounds that we see, the top 100 and 150 players that, I got to have enough exposure. And our scouting department has done a fantastic job. Our personnel department with, Elliot and Ryan and Cam Williams helping us do there, Matt Groh, everybody, getting out and going different places and bringing guys in on 30 visits and making suggestions like, hey, what do you think about this guy coming in? Let's get some more information on this guy. And so I've loved where the process has been. We worked well through the free agency process of being able to have a plan, being able to pivot off of that, move quickly, be decisive. Those were some things that we're really excited about. And I think the balance for me is just making sure that I'm doing everything I can with our current players, but also making sure that I'm staying up on, the guys that we may add to our football team.
Deuce haven't signed a running back yet. Is that an area you like to address in the draft?
I think so. Having a good young runner, something that's potentially something that we would like to do. I thought the guys coming back, I think Ramondre and Gibby, I think obviously we're a good 1-2 punch. People are going to talk about Ramondre and putting the ball on the ground, and he knows that. But we'll help him there, and we'll also, we're going to help make sure the other 10 players know that their job is to protect the guy with the ball as well. There were some opportunities on there for me to teach the other guys that that second guy in, the guy you don't see is the one that's making the fumble or causing the fumble. And so it's a great opportunity for me to show those other players that their guys, the one coming in there to knock the ball loose. And so is that going to all be on the running back? No. It's going to be on the guy that's letting his guy get in there and make the hit. So those are great opportunities for me. But we'll love to add good young players on offense and skill players.
How was it personally?
And now, great moments in history.
But Fred, what tastes better, a tender or a wing?
A wing, if it's done right, because the skin's still on it and it's fried, and
it's all from one chicken. I think the bone gives it extra flavor. I don't know why.
Well, it's the fat from the skin that gives it the flavor.
I like bone in. but there's times that I'm perfectly satisfied with my tenders.
Right here
Like when we
on
do it
this
right
show.
here, right? Because I don't want to be eating wings and making a mess as I'm trying to yell at college for telling me that
Right.
I call Belichick a mediocre coach.
You know, it's on your face, but it's also all in your fingers
It's an
and stuff.
experience,
You know,
an experience. You'll
So when
remember
I
it.
eat wings at home, after
Oh.
I'm done, I just put my hand out, and my dog cleans my fingers
my
for me.
God.
Like you're the
Oh
king.
my God!
Just hangs his hand off the throne.
What?
You fat bastard! You can't even get up and wash your own hands.
Not immediately. You're watching TV. You let the dog do the work.
Oh my God, Fred.
Not yet.
I
Not
just
yet.
can't.
I'm still working.
You know, he likes it.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
it's win-win for both
It's a
of
little
us.
spicy for him. Is that giving him a little
It's all
stomach
right.
issues?
It's all right.
That's another great moment from
All right, you can't sleep until football season starts? Let Bob's Discount Furniture help. Not only do Bob's mattresses have next-level sleep tech, like breathable antimicrobial covers. Did I say that right? Microbial? I don't know. They have those type of covers. A lumbar-supporting individually wrapped coil system and signature Bobopedic gel memory foam. The Copper Radiance and Treasure were recently named Consumer Reports recommended mattresses. So if you want to score the ultimate sleep touchdown, make your way to Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. And I should tell people that Patriots Unfiltered is sponsored by the Massachusetts 250 campaign, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at massachusetts250.org. So there you go. Okay?
It's a good time of year to come to Massachusetts.
It's always a good time.
Starting to get a little warmer out. Good
Yep.
time.
Although it's going to rain a lot this week. Yeah.
I was trying to sell it.
Got some painting in on Sunday. So that was good.
What's your paint?
Outside, some trim.
Huh? He sniffs.
Yeah. Let's go to the hotline. Eldred's on North Carolina. What's up, Eldred? Oh, jeez.
Big
Hey,
E.
fellas, how y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, when the playbook coming back on?
It isn't.
Excellent question.
We've canceled the playbook.
Oh, heck. All right, then.
Yeah.
Well, two things.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul,
Yes, sir.
you're sleeping on T-Mac. Evan, I love speed, too. But Higgins ran a 4.5 in the combine, and so did Evan. But they came out better receivers. So it's all how you play. But I think he'd be better than what y'all, and he will be 6 or 10 pick.
6th or 10th?
Because both those guys need receivers. Yeah, because they got this. Some of the drafts got them going that way.
Yeah.
Jaguars and Saints.
Yeah.
Saints are 9. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bears are
Yeah.
10. Yep.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay, one
I think
more
McMillan had a good college career. I'm just not convinced that he's going to be a standout wide receiver. But you're right. There are other guys that were bigger guys that didn't necessarily have blazing speed that have succeeded. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Since we got rid of Bentley, you think they'd draft a middle linebacker in the draft, and I'll take it off air. Y'all have a good one.
All right, thanks. I don't think have we talked about the Bentley release on this show?
I don't believe so.
I don't think we have.
Yeah,
I was
that happened
surprised.
Friday.
I that took me by surprise. You know, we talk about surprise cuts. To me, that was a surprise cut.
Yeah, I know there's a lot that is being made about the scheme fit and that he wasn't necessarily a scheme fit at his size, but the way I took it, and then Vrabel kind of confirmed this yesterday more or less, is they're kind of looking for a culture reset. Like, I think they want new leaders. Like, they want a new identity of the team and a new culture, and I think part of the 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door on the dynasty guys, like David Andrews, Dietrich Wise, Jonathan Jones, Jawan Bentley, like they kind of are always hearkening back to the past with a lot of those guys, and this is how we used to do it around here. And I think that Vrabel's trying to chart his own course, and he kind of got rid of a lot of
It
those
could be.
guys.
I mean, that's stuff I'm not aware of. But as a player, I thought his size and his style was complementary to the other guys. Like, okay, he's your big guy. He's your plugger. He's your, and you know, then you have your speed guys. And I thought it was a good compliment.
I agree.
With an E.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely not expected. I would stop short of surprised only because we've been talking a lot all off season. There are going to be guys that are going to go that you're not expecting to go.
I just didn't think he'd be one.
And
of
that's
them.
another one.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Not expecting to go,
Yep.
and they're going to go. I think Godchild was another one that that went. Now, Wise and Jones are both free agents, so I think they're a little bit different. But Andrews, Bentley, Godchild.
Yeah.
I was a little bit surprised by that, and I would wonder, and what everything Evan said, there was a lot of talk about that in the in Vrabel's meeting yesterday in his breakfast. I'm not sure that I agree with that style. Like, I've never really looked at these guys in question, Bentley specifically, as a guy like, well, that's not the way we used to do it. Like, he's never struck me as that kind of guy.
Like I said, maybe there's stuff behind that I don't know about.
He's always struck me as a really, really good leader and role model, an
Agreed.
example.
I don't think that's not what I was saying.
No, I'm not putting it on you. I think you're right. I think that's what Mike is doing.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like was like a bad teammate by any means. I just think that he said it in his introductory press conference, like the 6 banners are a good reminder, but they're not going to help us.
Right.
And I think that he's trying to turn a new leaf where Gerard kind of just almost made an extension of the Belichick leadership.
Well, he's clearing the way for his guys.
Right. And I didn't in fairness here, I wasn't in favor of what they did last year either by bringing them all back. But I didn't necessarily see the need to get rid of them all either.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are not moves that are going to, dramatically alter the course. But I do think, it was scheme related in a lot of ways too. I mean, I think clearly they want to be smaller and more
faster,
more athletic, more mobile at that position.
Elliot Wolf said it yesterday that he was, I think it was Felger, asked him about how the defense is going to change under Vrabel, and he said not a ton, other than an emphasis at speed at the linebacker position.
Javon Walker?
And team speed in general. Just watching some of the linebackers recently, kind of to Eldred's second question, there's a lot of guys that in this class in particular, it's actually a very good linebacker class. And there's a lot of guys in this class in particular that fit that mold of the a little bit undersized but have great speed, good coverage ability.
Right.
And my only hesitation is kind of like what Fred was saying. Like, don't you have to have one guy that's going to take up some space and is going to stop the run? Like, you don't want to play 2 or 3 guys and everybody is 220 pounds, right? Like, you would probably like to have at least one guy, even if it's just for short yardage and goal line and like all that kind of stuff. That can actually come downhill at the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of, Chris Paul Jr.'s and, Jeffrey Bosses and guys that are great coverage linebackers, but they have a lot of that, already. They have speed and they have athleticism. So I am wondering where they might find that thumper, if they even care about finding it.
This emailer doesn't want me to use his name, but he is very, very upset with Robert Kraft. He says regarding the Parcells induction.
I figured we'd get some of this.
Yeah,
today.
he says, 1, bypassing voting as Parcells has been on the ballot, but we've never voted him in. He means the fans. 2, Parcells is not as good as both Belichick and Chuck Fairbanks. 3, Chuck Fairbanks was a great coach and eye for talent. Please remind your audience of some of his draft picks that set up this team with talent even after he left. 4, Fairbanks had more wins than any other Patriots coach until Belichick bypassed him. Fairbanks never had a Belichick with him, as Parcells did for both Giants and Patriots. And Belichick in TB12 is the foundation for RKK current Foxborough fiefdom. So effing pissed that RKK co-opted the Hall of Fame process, taking our votes away and inviting Belichick Parcells ahead of Belichick and Chuck Fairbanks. Now,
it's not ahead of Belichick.
It's not ahead of Belichick. Belichick's not. He's not eligible yet.
No.
So even you have to be 4 years retired before you're eligible for the Patriots Hall of Fame. So I guarantee when he's eligible, he will get in.
But
Chuck Fairbanks is a fair one.
Yeah, I wonder, with Belichick, let's say he coaches a year at North Carolina and he announces that he's done coaching.
Yep.
Would they bypass the waiting period like they did with Tom Brady?
I think they probably should.
Yeah.
I think they also you could just say like 2 more years, and that would be the 4 years. Like, because I would say last year he was out.
Right.
This year he's in college. He's not in the NFL. To me, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know what. I wouldn't be opposed to just waiving it altogether.
Yeah.
The Fairbanks thing, we've talked about Fairbanks a lot in the meetings, and there was actually one year that I presented for Chuck Fairbanks, and I would absolutely back up a lot of things. It's funny because I think Evan's going to be bored to tears because this is, before he was even thought of. There's a lot of similarities between Parcells and Fairbanks. They were both elite talent evaluators. They both drafted exceptionally well. They both basically built teams by themselves in similar situations. Everything I said about Parcells inheriting nothing is the same for Chuck Fairbanks.
Yep.
The organization was just in shambles.
Yep.
And then he built the team and also ended up leaving in very controversial fashion.
Right.
It's uncanny how similar their candidacies are. I would absolutely be wholeheartedly in favor of Chuck Fairbanks also being in.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's one of those things like, can you have it? You can't have everybody.
I think that's probably Bill Parcells, because I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't live the culture stuff and the changing, that he brought in, but the players that he drafted that were then a part of Dynasty 1.0. I mean, that's a big part of laying the foundation. I mean, you would remember the picks better than me, but Willie McGinnis,
Ty Law,
McGinnis, Law, Malloy, Bruschi, Johnson.
Yep.
He drafted
exceptionally well,
but he got him. He brought
in Vinatieri.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of his defense, right? I mean, you just named it pretty much besides Seymour, everybody.
It's not only his defense, it's his style of defense.
Yeah.
3-4.
Now, again, Fairbanks, it was Hannah, Haynes, Brock,
right.
Fox, Claiborne, Morgan.
Right.
I mean, it was just like one stud after the next.
Yep.
When he drafted all of those guys. Steve Nelson, Steve Grogan.
Yep. Grogan a stud?
For that time, yeah.
Okay.
Way ahead of his time, Freddie, as a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, he was a running quarterback.
He'd be Lamar Jackson
legitimately, he was really only a one-threat quarterback because he couldn't throw.
Do Patriots still hold that record for team rushing in a season?
I believe the Ravens.
They passed them?
Passed them a couple of years ago.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Let's go to Fidel in Tampa. What's up, Fidel? Fidel.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So I want to say if I'm on board with drafting Ashton Genty. I really am.
Okay.
Like, my only thought process behind it is, like, if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter go, and if you had to put your mortgage that one player coming out of this draft is going to go to the Hall of Fame, to me, I think it has to be Ashton Genty. Even though I know the positional value at 4, or if we trade back to 6 to get him, isn't there.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that line was struggling. But I got the gist of what he's saying, and
I can't argue with
I don't hate it. I like to. Evan and I disagree on a lot of stuff, and we agree on a lot of stuff. And this is one of the ones that we agree on. I just don't think the positional value.
The guy that you draft, let's say in the top 5 of any draft, should have a possibility in your mind to be a Hall of Famer? Should that be a criteria?
It's a high bar.
No.
It is a high bar.
Yeah.
No, but that's not really the point of what he was saying.
I know.
He's saying that he has the potential to be a Hall. If you
Right.
had to bet on one
If there's
guy,
any guy, yeah,
that he would bet on him.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I can't argue that either. I just keep on going back to philosophically just building a football team, and if you draft Ashton Genty, first of all, then day 2 better be all offensive linemen, right? Like you better throw as many darts at left tackle and even left guard as you possibly can. Like, you have to build it successfully around that style. Like, you are going to have a dominant offensive line in front of Ashton Genty. I think the part that I come back to is the notion that Ashton Genty is going to turn a bad offensive line into a good one is just not true. That's not going to happen. He can turn a solid offensive line into a great one, or elevate that situation. But if they put the same product in front of him on the line that they had last year, he's not going to be worth the pick. It's just not going to work out. So I just look at it that way personally, that I have a tough time envisioning them having an environment that will allow him. Like when the Cowboys drafted Zeke, like they had multiple Hall of Famers on their offensive line. They had a great offensive line. So he came in and he was, instantly one of the best running backs in the NFL. I just don't think the Patriots have that set up for Genty, and that would be my hesitation.
Antoine's in Mississippi. Hey, Antoine.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
So I have a question. So we all agree that we're in a new regime, right, with the new management and the new coaching staff. And for the past few drafts, the Patriots have just been, they're waiting for the pick. Like, they're not aggressive at all. And I really think there hasn't been a narrative to where the Patriots should, trade up. Not to number one, but maybe to number two. And that way Cleveland can stay in the midst to get Abdul Carter, and we can get Travis Hunter, because I think that would be a great option for us. And I think that it wouldn't cost as much as people would think. Maybe we have 2 thirds this year. We can give them a third, a fifth, and we have 3 sevens. We can give them a 7 and maybe a second round next year. And that should be enough to go up, to go and get them. But I just think that right now we need to be more aggressive, and people really aren't talking about trading up. They're just talking about trading back, or just waiting to see what happens for us. When we should really be more aggressive, like they said that we're going to be.
I mean, I can't argue with that either. I mean, there's an argument for both. I want more players. I don't want to give up all those assets, but let's get somebody who can make a difference, and we know can make a difference, whether it's Carter or
those
Travis
are the
Hunter.
two, those are the two guys that are worth trading up for. Now, I think it would.
Thanks, Antoine.
I think you're going to give up a lot of assets that I'm not sure that you can afford to give up.
Going from 4 to 2.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think it's going to cost you some draft picks to do that because everybody else thinks that there's only 2 guys in the draft too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't hate the idea of
I don't hate
exploring
it. I don't hate it.
I'd probably prefer to try to trade up from 38. I think if you traded up from 38 back into the end of the first round, there might be some tackles and receivers that are maybe more value there. An Ariante Ursary, Josh Connerly, Mecca Ibuka, Matthew Golden, like those guys might still be available at that point of the draft. That we didn't have to reach on. We don't think that Will Campbell's going to make it at tackle, so now we don't have to reach.
I like that idea.
I probably, but that's still being aggressive to me. Like it's not aggressive like the caller was talking about necessarily, but I think pulling off a trade back into the first round to make 2 first-round picks would be pretty enticing.
Fraser in Edinburgh, Scotland writes in, after the Diggs signing last week, I've come to think that we are almost certain to take Will Campbell. Vrabel has shown in the last few weeks that he is set on filling as many of the gaping holes that we have on the roster. I'd say that left tackle is the largest of the holes that we have, so it is inconceivable that he won't address that position this offseason. I know there are doubts about Campbell, but we can only pick from what's available, and it seems that he's the best left tackle this year, so we should take him.
Sound logic.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe that it won't be one of the 2 tackles, whether it's Membu or Campbell, if Carter and Hunter are gone. If Carter and Hunter make it to 4, one of those guys, I think he's the pick. But if it's not that, then I think it's going to be one of those 2 tackles. And one of the things he said yesterday that, he was talking right to me when he said this. He said, you want need and best available to kind of marry up together. Not this notion that it's always just best player available.
That was my rant last week. You don't just ignore need.
Right.
That's not how you do it.
So hearing him say that and hearing him talk about the tackles, it seems to me like they know left tackle is the biggest need on their roster right now, and they have 2 guys that they like at that spot.
David Bethlehem writes in, this draft is hard to evaluate. So many players had stalled development during COVID in their formative years. Vrabel is smart to bring in multiple coaches. Agree with Fred. Campbell has true grit. Paul and Evan, who should be the Patriots' second-round pick?
I love Evan's trade with Matthew Golden. I really like him.
Yeah, I don't
a
know
lot.
if you can get high enough for him.
And if you could get into the first round and do something like that, I'd be in favor of that. But
yeah,
I don't know. Evan would know the particulars of the guys that are going to be around 38 more than I would.
I think the 3 guys that I've kind of looked a little bit extra at recently, Ursary, the left tackle from Minnesota. big guy, kind of like a not quite as big as like Trent Brown, but a bigger tackle. That's what you're getting with him. Connerly is a smaller tackle that's a little bit more athletic and a little bit of a better pass blocker. So like those two guys, and then I don't know what is going to end up happening on draft weekend with Luther Burden. There's a lot of teams that have some off the field concerns about his makeup and his attitude and all that kind of stuff. He could fall out of the first round as a result. And to me, he is a first round talent all the way. So do you roll the dice a little bit at 38 and say, we really need star power at receiver?
He could be this year's A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, or something along those lines. We really need. It's not enough. Like we need a needle mover at that position. Yeah, he's got some warts with him in terms of his character, but Vrabel will be on him, and they'll get him to stay on the tracks. And he's to me he's a top 20 player in the draft just based off the tape, but he's got some of those warts.
Rusty and Arlen, not sure if Paul is doing a poll, but I am very much in favor of Parcells being in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad they are able to honor Parcells while he's still alive and healthy. Can you talk about how the Bledsoe-Parcells years felt? From what I understand, Parcells left over not having enough personnel control. I know people were angry about how he left. Was there a sense they should have given him more control? Were people ready for him to leave by the end? When Belichick came in, did you genuinely believe he could win a Super Bowl with Bledsoe?
I mean, I did, but Bledsoe was my guy.
Yep.
That was the crux of it. It was control of personnel. I think that there was a lack of trust because, as Fred said earlier in the show, there was some restlessness on Parcells' behalf that led you to believe that he wasn't there for the long haul. And I think the team felt we can't necessarily just continue to give him all the control of the personnel if he's not going to make us any assurances that he's going to stay. So that sort of led to a culmination for the 96 draft where they kind of undercut him and took the picks away. I think to the detriment. Some people would argue, but I felt like their plan of Brackens and Muhammad, that was what Parcells wanted, might have been better than Terry Glenn and Laurie Malloy.
Yeah, I was upset.
Which is what they ended up doing.
Yeah, I was upset that he left, and I remember going to the Super Bowl, and the rumors had already started that this was it. He was gone.
Oh, yeah. By the time the Super Bowl rolled around, it was apparent.
And we were on the plane, and Parcells had his friend, longtime coach that I think coached him in high school or something. I forget the name of the guy. It might have been like Red something. Everybody back then was named Red. But he was a guy that like Parcells had known his whole life, and he brought him along for the Super Bowl. And I remember the guy came up, and he was going by me, and I stopped him. And I said, "Can you tell Bill not to leave? Tell him to stay."
Freddie always felt like he could.
Yeah,
trying to do the politics.
Yeah, no, I want knowing all the drama that he could be. He could be a diva, but I wanted him to stay. He was a great coach.
I mean, I liked Parcells, but absolutely he was a diva. Very definition.
So I was pissed. I was pissed that he was leaving. So that's how I felt. Spee in Fresno, Fred, am I allowed to already have a man crush on Mike Vrabel? Great interview at the
Deuce does.
Yeah. Great interview at the league meeting yesterday. He's poised and confident without talking down to people. He seems to provide meaningful information without giving away company secrets, and he sounds like a coach without overdoing the coach speak. I'm not just Bill bashing, and we'll see what happens when the season starts, but this is a breath of fresh air so far. I might ask Vrabes to prom with Paul as my backup, given how svelte he's looking these days.
Oh, nice
thank
compliment.
you. Thank you very much.
There you go.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I really, and I've said this a million times, I love Mike, and I really enjoyed covering him as a player. He would be certainly in that top 5 or so of players. So I really feel like, he's a guy that I know pretty well. I would just caution, in terms of how he deals with the media. Let's wait until it starts, because I saw some of his press conferences with Tennessee, and I'm not sure all the Tennessee media would agree with that characterization, the talking down to specifically.
Right.
I think Mike is pretty fiery.
Oh yeah.
and
he could be a smart ass.
He's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
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 Right now, it's kind of the honeymoon
Everything's
phase.
great now. Yeah.
But I do like that it's very clear that he has a vision for what he wants in players. Like, we haven't
No
gotten
doubt.
to the games yet, and you're 100% right. But in terms of what he's looking for in players specifically, I think you could name any position on the roster and say safeties. Like, how does a Patriots safety play for Mike Vrabel? And he would have a full answer of, from details to not, to more boilerplate stuff of what exactly he would look for in an ideal safety. And I don't know if that's true for every coach.
Right.
Let's go to Patty and Agawam. What's up, Patty?
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
Wanted to get into a little draft, and Fred, I was wondering if you could let me complain a little about some of the rules proposals.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm reserved to the fact that we're probably going to draft Will Campbell, which is, I never thought it would have been a bad pick. By all accounts, like, if you look at his numbers, the pressures that he gave up, the amount of time that he started, the fact that he didn't miss games and played against top-level competition in the SEC for 3 years, starting since the first day that he walked on campus, all that stuff adds up to, I think he'll be a pretty good tackle. He's tough. So up this fall so far. So
okay.
Hold on, I'm sorry. So we'll see how that goes. Evan, I'm with you. Like, if Burden is there at 38, I wouldn't. The two guys, like, I love Jalen Noel, but Pauly, like, your guy, we don't have a guy like Jaden Higgins. We don't have that typical X receiver. So I wouldn't mind seeing either one of those two guys at 38. And as far as, like, the rules go, I don't mean to sound like a grumpy old man, but I like the NFL back before they switched to, like, 17 playoffs, back when overtime was sudden death. I don't like the fact that both teams get the ball in overtime. I proposed this. I know you said it's defunct now, Fred, but on the playbook a couple of years ago that they should just go either one of two things, go back to sudden death or play a 15-minute period, and whoever's in the lead or if it's tied at the end, just end it. That's it.
I think this is pretty close to that.
Yeah.
This is pretty
Thanks,
close to
Patty.
that. I think if you play 15 minutes, it's going to be like, now unfortunately it's only 10.
Right.
But I think you're going to get, with both teams getting the ball, it's going to be kind of who wins the quarter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm all for a change if it's good change. And I think both teams having a possession is a good change.
I agree.
Yeah, football's a unique game.
And I know the numbers don't necessarily say it was just the team that won the toss wins all the time. I know that doesn't back that up, but it's an advantage.
Yeah.
It kind of feels more like now that it's almost like college style, except you just have to drive the whole field instead of getting
right.
Because it'd be way too easy in the NFL to make it college style where they shorten the fields, down so much. But I think that's what it is now. It's basically college, it's hold serve.
I think sudden death works in hockey, works in soccer, but for other sports, it's
well, because there's possessions.
There's fluid change.
Like, having the puck in hockey isn't the advantage that it is have in the football and in the NFL is.
Right. Yeah. So, and in basketball, it doesn't make sense because there's too many points scored. But
basketball needs to tweak its overtime too. It's too long.
Too long.
It takes
5 minutes.
It's 5 minutes. But like now with the 3-point shot, like you could build a 10-point lead in the first minute of overtime and lose it. But by the end of it, it's too long. They got to do something about that.
Jeez, I thought 5 minutes is pretty good.
Kind of short.
I don't know.
I like.
I'm getting ready to start paying attention.
Yeah.
Coming down the home stretch now.
Yeah.
I like count. Like maybe it's like how when you were kids, like 1st to 11, right? Like maybe like have it be like a certain amount of points that you have to get to, instead of timed overtime.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Minute.
Rick writes in. He's in Rhode Island. Hope they get rid of the automatic first down for a 5-yard penalty. I think they already canned that one, right?
Yeah, that's not happening.
That's for defensive holding. Also, they should combine defensive holding, illegal contact, and pass interference into one 10-yard penalty for pass interference with no automatic first down, same as offensive pass interference.
Well, 10-yard penalties is going to be a first down 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you have third and longer than 10?
I know, but I understand why they didn't incorporate this, because there's just too much incentive if it's 4th and 12 or 3rd and 12 to just
grab them.
Just grab them.
Yeah.
And then 10-yard penalty, it's 4th down.
Right. Or if it's a legal contact 5-yard penalty, it's 3rd and 12. Now it's just 3rd and 7, which is also still a pretty low percentage conversion rate. So
yeah.
If it's too much incentive, the defense can just grab guys.
Right.
I'm very much against making pass interference a 10-yard penalty. I think the spot foul is good. Now, does that mean that I agree with the way they call it?
Right.
No.
Right.
But it should be do you talk about incentive?
Yeah.
When you're down 50 yards down, you just say, "Oh, I'm beat. I'm just going to tackle him."
Right.
Because it's only going to be a 10-yard penalty. That would happen constantly.
And that's why the rule is the way it is. That said, I agree with Paul. You got to call it better, and
it's not
that's
called
where
properly.
Review assistance comes into play, and I think it should be a reviewable penalty,
especially on balls significantly down the field. Make it be pass interference.
Yeah.
I was watching. It's funny. I was watching on NFL Network over the weekend. They were running the 18 conference championship. So the Patriots Chiefs was on. I was watching that a little bit, but before that they had the Saints and Rams.
Oh,
and that
play,
egregious pass interference by the Rams that they didn't call at the end. And I still say, and I give Troy Aikman and Joe Buck talked about it a little bit, but no one talked about this in the aftermath of the game. It's just how badly Sean Payton screwed that up. It should have never gotten to the point where they needed that pass interference to be called, even though they got screwed.
Yeah.
That was one of the most egregiously missed calls I've ever seen, bar none. But they had that long pass to Ted Ginn down there. They were in field goal range. All they had to do was run the ball 3 times, make the Rams use the rest of their timeouts, and kick a field goal with no time left, and the game's over.
Yeah, Instead, they threw
the ball twice.
Yeah,
they threw it twice, and the second one was the one that. So they threw an incomplete pass, and then they got the pass interference that they didn't call.
Yeah.
Now, had they called it, he would have gotten away with it. But
sure,
no, Sean Payton did not take anywhere near enough criticism for how he botched that down the stretch.
Rick also says, as for Parcells, I believe the disgraceful way he left was a disqualifier. It is a shame Kraft pushed aside the selection process to induct Parcells. Yes, he is the owner and can do what he wants, but this is disgraceful. If Parcells couldn't get in through the regular process, he shouldn't be in. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I'm on record about my stance there, but let's say that you do think he was, he should get in. The process hurt him because of all the players that he's going up against.
It's hurting Wes Welker right now.
Yeah, and so there is a chance that he could get in, but posthumously, how do you say? Posthumously, and that's not good.
It's
so
just the man.
And again, I think maybe that's something that Robert Kraft took into consideration by doing it now. You don't want to wait until it's too late.
That's a fair point.
Dave in San Marcos, Texas. Raymond Berry deserves to get into the Patriots Hall of Fame before Bill Parcells. He coached here longer, has a better regular season and playoff record, first Patriots Super Bowl appearance, and coached that first NFL team to win 3 road playoff games en route to the Super Bowl. Also, he did not try to screw the Patriots on his way out the door. Raymond Berry. See, this is where the bar has gotten too low.
So I'll just say, no, this is where no one can really eliminate their personal hatred. Because anyone that would suggest that Raymond Berry did more for the Patriots than Bill Parcells is doing so solely based on hatred of Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
Like, I loved Raymond Berry as the coach. He inherited a team that had been in the playoffs like 2 years earlier, and that should have been in the playoffs the year he inherited it.
Yep.
And he ended up doing a nice job with them.
Yep.
They got to a Super Bowl. They overachieved. Great. I have nothing bad to say about Raymond Berry. Bill Parcells built what you think is the Patriots now. He started that, and Belichick obviously brought it to heights that we never imagined.
Yep.
But there's no comparison between the impact that Parcells had on the Patriots and the impact that
And when it comes to team Hall of Fame, you have to take into consideration what they did for the team.
Right. And you hate him because he left you.
Right.
And I get that.
The way
but you're not wrong for feeling that way.
Listen, if I was in charge of the world, we wouldn't have to worry about this conversation because none of them would get in. Parcells wouldn't even get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
No
He wouldn't.
coaches.
He wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say no
Parcells
coaches.
wouldn't get into. Oh, no coaches in the Hall of Fame.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
saying
Then,
in my like
In your Hall of Fame.
in my Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
he would not. He does.
Who
he
would
wouldn't
be in?
Oh.
Vince Lombardi would
Bill
get
Belichick.
in. Bill Walsh would get in. And then after that, it's tough.
Tom
Belichick
Landry?
will get in mine.
Joe Gibbs.
Nope.
Okay, I can live with
Nope.
that. I can live with that. I
Nope.
see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You gotta win. You gotta win 4.
You gotta
gotta win 'em all. But that's okay.
But you,
Tom Landry?
You
That's
gotta be
okay.
up there. I don't know about Tom
Shula.
Landry.
My God.
Shula.
Tom Landry.
No, not Shula. No.
The guy created like the 4-3 defense.
I-
Like,
I don't care.
Paul,
he
I know.
changed the entire landscape of the game.
All right.
And by the way, won 1 million games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Just thought.
By the way, the
Why is Vince
the 3-4
Lombardi in
defense
Tom
was
Landry?
invented by the guy from Army.
4-3. I
What?
said.
Oh,
I said 4-3, not 3-4.
Okay.
3-4 was actually invented by Bud Wilkinson of Oklahoma.
Bud Wilkinson. No, he invented the 3-4, right?
3-4.
Yeah, right. You're right. Bud Wilkinson. You're right. We did a story on that for PFW.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for reading.
Yeah.
So why Vince Lombardi then?
Because of the amount of wins that he,
Because you got a seal here.
Championships.
Ho.
Championships.
So the other guys that won championships don't matter? Like Paul Brown doesn't care?
No, Paul Brown probably would get in.
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
get to him. We didn't get.
No,
to
I know, because you stopped. Your list was 2.
No,
it was Bill Walsh and Vince
Paul
Lombardi.
Brown. He should probably.
I
Get in.
like this.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm more with you. I like small.
Yeah.
Hall. I'm a small hall guy.
You have to be great.
Yeah, I just think some of those guys that you're ignoring were great. Tom Landry was great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that some of the players that have gotten in the last couple of years, I'm like, I don't know if he was really great. Like he was a good player.
There's good
but-
players getting in now.
Oh,
Not
it's-
great. I
it's-
agree.
it's
Brian
not
Dawkins.
good.
Yeah.
Brian Dawkins. I loved Brian Dawkins.
Yeah.
Really good player.
For the Canton Hall of Fame, it's become this event that they have to have at least 4 guys, or
Well, not
else
this year.
It's it's so like, I think in my world, there's a potential that one year there'd be no one that gets into the Pro Football Hall
I
of
think
Fame.
that's fair.
Happened in baseball a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate your theories. I just would sort of where you draw the line. I
Yeah,
would
to me, it's a gut thing. Like I hear the name and say Paul Brown Hall of Fame. I don't
can't-
have to think about
I
it.
just can't believe you don't hear like Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Don Shula, and think the same thing.
Shula.
I mean, Shula, I kind of agree with him on a little. Like, I can see where he's coming from. I don't agree.
He had a long
I don't
tenure.
agree.
He coached a long time, but
I don't think there's an argument against Chuck Noll and Tom Landry. Like, I think both those guys.
Like Shula lost 1 game over a 2-year span.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Like that doesn't mean anything to you?
No.
Okay.
It was a different time.
I appreciate it. I really
Yeah.
do.
I mean, during Manning in the Colts, Tony Dungy then should probably get in because he had a lot of wins.
He never did that.
No, but like, what did he lose? 3 games in 2 years or something like that? I don't know. It was incredible, but
Like 1 year, 1 loss over 2
I didn't
years.
say. I said it wasn't that, but it was pretty incredible. Like the amount of regular season wins that they racked up in Indy.
There's no free agency back then. It was a different sport.
But whatever. But like,
Made it harder.
if
If you ask me, you couldn't just go and buy what you needed.
Just
on the,
winning
on the
a lot of
market.
games doesn't do it for me.
But he won titles, Fred.
It's
It's
the-
not just winning games. Like what?
It's the impact on the game.
I
that you
just find
had.
it odd that you like Vince Lombardi's the guy that like stands
and
above.
I don't. I'm not a big Vince.
Like I would make an argument against Vince Lombardi because I kind of agree with Bill Belichick on Vince
Yeah,
Lombardi.
no,
who I always kind of got the feeling that he thought he was kind of overrated.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
He's a great disciplinarian,
I hear
great
that.
structure, great program.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I don't know. I think his contribution to the game. There's a lot of things that he taught that got passed along, and
Well, that's why I would put in Tom Landry.
yeah. Paul Brown for sure, innovator,
The Bear.
winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Landry's from the Vince Lombardi tree,
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have gone down the
Ish.
Bill Walsh rabbit hole recently, and that coaching tree. If you really, you have to be a little bit generous in some spots, but it's incredible the amount of just coaching talent
Yeah.
that is all branches off the West Coast and Bill
So
Walsh.
I
and the
love
49ers.
those when you go back and you see like 1984, East Texas State coaching
Yeah.
staff, and there's like 7 guys that are household names.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
These guys were all nobody nothings at this time, and they were all together. That's like, what they tried to do with Cleveland, the
Yeah,
Cleveland
yeah.
94
Yeah.
thing. Only it didn't.
Or like the.
It's more like,
the Washington.
It's more like Bill Belichick and Nick Saban.
Or the Washington Commanders and then Redskins.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Mike Shanahan with McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Bobby Slowick and.
Chris
Mike
with a
McDaniel.
TIAN writes in, happy to see Parcells inducted. It's about time. He, along with ownership, changed everything here. Well deserved. And Fred was the guy you mentioned in today's story, Mickey Corcoran. That was his high school coach. Yes, it was absolutely
that's the
Mickey
name.
Corcoran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same name as the Hall
I knew
of
it was
Famer that went
Mickey
to
or
BU.
Red or something like that. Yeah. Yep. Mick. Robin.
Somebody get to talk to.
Robin in the Catskills has a bone to pick with Evan. I like these emails. Last week on PU, Evan smugly deigned to include Bill Russell in his top 5 of all-time NBA greats. He did so twice. I can only imagine, like the rest of his video game addled generation, that he thinks LeBron belongs in the top 5. LeBron is a great player, although he's allowed to travel and not get fouled. Hell, Caitlin Clark takes harder fouls than him. His top tier is Jordan, Russell, Jabbar, Chamberlain, Magic, Bird, Dr. J. All are great players, but also transformative talents that change the game. So please, Evan, stick to football.
Okay, first of all, haven't played a video game in like 10 years. So I don't know what the video game
What
thing
is
means.
the actual issue with Evan?
I don't know. I wasn't.
I don't know.
Didn't you say that Bill Russell?
Yeah, I said he's a top 5 player of all time twice.
Yeah, so what's wrong with that?
So why?
Apparently
It sounds
he's
like he
not.
agrees.
Yeah, right. He agrees.
I don't know. And I would have LeBron as the second best basketball player of all time. Second.
Behind Jordan.
Yeah. Jordan, LeBron.
You're going to get yelled at by LeBron,
Jordan, LeBron, Magic, Larry Bird, Bill Russell.
I might be
That's
able
my
to
top
find a
5.
spot for LeBron.
I think LeBron.
I argue with Will all the time. I go, I might be able to squeeze him in my top 10.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, LeBron's
I have
great.
this in my
But
notes.
I think
he is
Michael Jordan
unbelievable.
is the best.
I still think Jordan was
100%.
better, but I LeBron's longevity, everything about it. Yeah, you got to give him his due.
I don't like the longevity doesn't do it for me. I'm kind of with you on that, Fred. Like just because he played for a long time doesn't.
But he's playing at a high level. for a
But
long
his
time.
his peak, I mean,
It's not Kyle Yastrzemski.
unbelievable. I mean, he went to 8 straight.
And he won with
conference
multiple
finals. I mean,
teams.
it's crazy.
I give him credit.
That, we'll see about that. I kind of hold that against him a little bit.
Why?
Well, I really feel like he has one real title. So that's
What,
just my
Cleveland?
take
Yeah.
in Cleveland. Like,
And even then, they needed them to suspend a player for the other team to make sure it happened.
but like the ones in Miami, like he was on Dwayne Wade's team.
I'm with him on this.
Yeah.
All right, he's on Dwayne and brought Chris Bosh.
Can you imagine if like Larry and Magic did this? Do you imagine how many titles they would have won if they just said, "Hey, why don't we both become free agents?
Right.
And we'll go to the same place, and then we'll recruit our friends."
I know.
And
Because that's
also-
basically what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's also not forget that the Lakers title was in the bubble during the COVID year.
Yeah.
Fake, phony title, but still the second best player of all time. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
if you're going to put him up against Jordan,
Oh, yeah, Jordan wins.
These are flaws.
But just imagine if Larry and Magic decided to play together.
Yeah.
How many titles they would have won.
Yep.
I mean, they combined for, 8 titles over a 10-year span as it was.
Yep. James Pettigrew, the most interesting Patriots fan in the world, says, what about, this is about the overtime, what about both defenses and offenses are on the field? Offenses start at their own 20-yard line, and then it's the first to score. You may need a few more officials, but Evan would love watching the all 44. What?
I get it. Yeah, it's a joke, I think.
Oh, it's a joke?
I don't think that was serious, was it?
Okay, I was thinking he might. Okay. Let's see. John is
It's
not
a serious
happy.
show. Come on.
John is not happy about Parcells. Never wanted to see Parcells in the Hall of Fame over one of the people from the dynasty. Parcells ruined that Super Bowl for me, so I never wanted to see him going over all the people who made Super Bowls great for me. The owner putting him in seems fair. I will never vote for him. Yes, I know he helped the team, but he couldn't wait to leave us. The whole calling Terry Glenn she bothered me, and the way he handled leaving pretty much screwed up the 2 weeks of the Super Bowl In South Carolina, all I heard was about him leaving and how unhappy he was.
Yeah, I mean, all that is fair. I don't believe that you were offended by the she comment. I don't believe that bothered you.
Oh, he said he.
But everything else, it absolutely was a bummer to be flying home from the Super Bowl in '96 knowing that he was leaving.
Yeah.
That was a bummer. It took away from the enjoyment.
Yep. Dave and Derry writes in, I do think, again, overtime, I do think this increases the odds of a tie, which I don't love.
I agree with that.
The only solution I can think of while giving each team a possession would be to add the 2-point attempt shootout thing that they do in college. I'm not surprised at all that Paul wants his first regardless. I'm not surprised at all that Paul wants it first regardless. He hates knowing what you need.
Oh, is this because of the down 9 go for 2 thing? Yeah.
Oh,
No.
Oh yeah.
If it was if it wasn't a 10-minute limit, I would if it was like unlimited, if it wasn't like one period. Words are very hard. If it wasn't one period of play, I would defer and I would want to know what I needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the time crunch makes it different, and the fact that it doesn't end. Yeah, to me, I would just go down, score a touchdown, make the other team score a touchdown.
Yep.
But I don't understand why that matters to Rich McKay.
Right.
That was my larger point. I understand, like, the whole Super Bowl thing with Kansas City and San Francisco. I would have deferred.
Well, what does Rich McKay know? He turned down Parcells. I mean, Belichick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that really makes him look bad now, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. he lost out on the 43rd ranked recruiting class.
To the 2-point thing in college, though, they do that because it's not timed, right? So like it can take, like, this is still going to have a time restraint on it, where the college game, they're just trying to get the game over, so they put the 2, you have to go for 2 in there.
So I would
different.
I would do that too.
You would do both?
No, I would not the shootout, but make them go for 2 after a touchdown.
I just don't see what. I guess it's a little harder to match.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if both of them get it, then all right, we're going to get stuck with a tie here. But I think it increases the chances of an outcome.
Now,
but they would think that was gimmicky, and I know.
If you had the ball second, would you go for 2 for the win?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I might do.
The Cody says, would you put John Madden in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
I'd have to think about that.
You would not. I know you would.
Because
I'm not. Don't take that as a shot.
I
You
know.
wouldn't, because he didn't do it long enough.
Yeah.
I would do it for
and
impact.
I don't include the Madden game.
See, I would do it for like broadcasting the video game.
Yeah, but if you
like,
can,
all that.
if you're allowed to, like, say, oh, somebody can do it for get in for doing 2 things, then Raymond Berry, for example, well, he's in, right? He's in the Hall.
I think he's a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame player.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he is too. So that's not a good example.
Why
But-
did you look it up?
Well, like, who would be another example of that? Somebody who had a good career in coaching and in playing, and both of those factors get him into the Hall. Because right now, that's not
Right.
what they do.
It's one resume.
It's one or the other.
Ray
They're
Berry's in
either
the
a
Hall
coach
of-
or a player.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that would be fair to count Madden in.
See,
if
I
you're gonna
wouldn't. I
put it-
think he should be a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
But
What do you have? 2 titles with the Raiders?
only one. But it was
Okay,
like, and I get your
so why
point,
is he so great?
Because his record is phenomenal.
He had a good record.
But it was short.
Yeah.
And to your point, I know you wouldn't put him in.
I would not
because you
put
didn't
him
do
in.
it long enough.
And I have to think about it.
And then if you do it too long, you wouldn't go in because you did it too long.
And
Don
he
Shula.
didn't get all the results postseason. Don Shula.
Yeah, Madden did.
Yeah.
Madden has like the best postseason winning percentage of all time, I
Yeah.
think.
He
Something
couldn't
like
win a
that.
Super Bowl with Dan Marino.
Don Shula. I do hold that against Don Shula. That's a valid point.
Right?
Neither could anybody else.
With Dan Marino?
Jimmy Johnson any good?
It was the end of his he was getting old at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's how many Super Bowls would Bill have won with Dan Marino?
I think
Probably
that Don-
none, because he wouldn't let him throw the ball.
I think Don Shula is overrated, but I think he's a Hall of Fame coach.
I agree.
I don't know if those two things make sense to anybody.
This is kind of like the LeBron Jordan conversation, where it's like if we're comparing him to the other great coaches.
We're talking about two of the very best players ever to play. So when you say something negative about one of them, it sounds like you think he stinks.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not like LeBron's an all-time great.
Oh yeah. Come on. Come on.
But not to
All right, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. We'll be back Thursday. Paul and I might be a little late because we have the Hall of Fame committee at 10 o'clock. That might run a little over.
I might have to help Fred not get his butt kicked, because sometimes Fred gets in fights at those things. I want to make sure he's okay.
It's a done deal now. I don't have to stand up and talk about.
I just want to make sure he's okay, so I don't like to leave him by himself.
Yeah. All right.
Gets in a lot of boxing matches.
Catch 22 tomorrow
Tomorrow at noon, yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.